Hello and welcome to the Ohio Arts Council. This is a spotlight on the Riffe with the Ohio Channel, and today we're going to have a look at the exhibition Shared State. Now, this exhibition was curated by two curators, Natalie Lanese and Jordan Buschur. Let's have a look.
Hi, I'm Jordan Buschur, and I am part of Coworker Gallery with my collaborator, Natalie Lanese. Coworker Gallery was started in 2019 as an artist-run gallery space, but the space of Coworker was really just a corner of an office at the arts nonprofit that I worked at in Toledo called the Arts Commission. And the idea was, why not harness an existing space to be able to make exhibitions? We built exhibitions, myself and my former coworker, Crystal Phelps, with the idea that there would just be two artworks in conversation with each other on a wall in our office. We would take turns selecting who chose the first artwork, and then the other person would choose an artwork in conversation with that piece. And to us, it felt like the artworks were in conversation, much like two coworkers sharing an office space together. That was the origin of Coworker, but that was in 2019 in the fall. And so in the spring of 2020, as we all know, things changed dramatically due to the pandemic. And our office became a remote space, so we were no longer going in, and Coworker took a pause. From there, we kind of kept the dream in our hearts and curated other exhibitions. And that was the origin for this exhibition, but that was 4 years ago. Crystal's life changed, and she passed the torch to Natalie to co-curate together with me for this exhibition, Shared State.
When I was asked to join Jordan, we were tasked with creating the same concept as the Coworker exhibitions had been in the past, but filling a much bigger gallery. So the way that we addressed that was by selecting 14 artists for this show and arranging them in 7 micro exhibitions where 7 pairs of artists are hung together throughout the space.
So we'd like to share some of the work with you, and we'll start here with this pairing with 2 artists. This piece here is by Josie Love Roebuck, an artist out of Fairborn, Ohio. And Josie is working from this world of painting and drawing, but has expanded into these hanging tapestries made from fabrics, stitches, beads, and all of this is coming together in a central image of a figure here, kind of functioning as portraiture and self-portraiture, both through the figure but also through the objects that are surrounding the figure. So in this case, a collection of books with titles that have resonance to the artist. Josie's work is working, like I said, in portraiture, but also thinking about how memory can be part of portraiture and how found materials and fragments can be similar to the way that we piece memories together.
We've paired Josie's work with Dana Lynn Harper. Dana's an artist based in Columbus and has historically been known as an installation artist. She has recently pivoted her practice to working with a mind towards environmentally friendly materials and processes, and uses materials such as rice, pistachio shells, paper pulp, and sculptural processes to dig through her own personal history and memory and remembrance. Her work also, creates a sense of like a ritual or altar type space. There's a feeling of meditation and reflection on the subjects of her work, which do include some figurative imagery in addition to all of these found materials. If you look closely at the texture in both Josie's and Dana's artworks, you'll see individual pieces of rice that have been mounted into Dana's relief sculpture that really mimic like some of the stitching that's happening in Josie's textile piece.
And both of them are also working with this way of incorporating different shapes on the wall instead of a regular rectangle that we might be accustomed to with a painting. So as Natalie mentioned, there's something of a ritual element to Dana's work, so we can see that it's almost an altar shape. And with Josie's piece, there's a suggestion of the natural world coming in around, so it's almost like trees and following the tree line around the figure there.
We're going to talk a little bit about how Jordan and I chose the artists for this exhibition. As she mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, co-workers, ethos is to kind of take turns between the two collaborating curators, selecting artists, and then choosing artists sort of in response or somehow in dialogue to that original artist. In this case, we had a larger area, as we mentioned earlier, to fill here in a gallery, but also a larger area to choose from, looking at the entire state of Ohio. We began by kind of searching through artists that we have encountered and began to narrow down based on work that really spoke to us, and then shared the group that we each selected with one another. From there, we agreed on artists that really excited both of us, and were able then to begin the process of pairing them together.
And that process of pairing the artists together built in an organic way. So even though we both brought artists to the mix, it wasn't quite as straightforward as, here's my artist, now you select one to pair with. We wanted to really be in conversation with each other as curators of the exhibition so that we could find new connections through our conversations on the pairings of who we would put together for the show. And in that way, we were kind of able to open each other's eyes to different parts about the work that we maybe hadn't noticed before. We were also careful to help each other see where things might be matching a little too much, although it is very pleasurable when there are formal rhymes between the work. But we wanted to make sure that the conversation was open enough so that there were multiple avenues for people to enter with interest in the work. So now we'll talk about the pairing behind us, which is Sarah Thomas from Toledo, Ohio, who works with photography and lens-based media. And so with Sarah's pieces, she is finding bits of plastic and detritus and finding a way to channel beauty through that kind of anxiety that can come from the amount of waste and plastic that exists in our world, and even to the point of microplastics in our bodies. There's an anxiety there, but Sarah is kind of adding a layer of complication by bringing beauty into the equation, by casting colorful lights onto the still lifes that she's setting up of the plastic material to kind of fool the eye a little bit. And then as you come closer, you can see that in fact it's bits of plastic, bits of trash, forgotten pieces of parts of things. And she makes them much larger in scale, which I think helps bring a sense of the overwhelmingness of the plastic that exists in our world.
Paired with Sarah is Erica B. Hess, who is a painter based in Columbus, Ohio. At first glance, this is an example of where the work matches a bit more than in other pairings throughout the exhibition. But that was something that Jordan and I sort of found irresistible in selecting these two artists. I think what's a little less obvious in the relationship between Erica's work and Sarah's is ideas of reflection, of permanence and impermanence. Erica's work kind of meditates on this puddle form that she paints in each of her compositions, offering an opportunity for reflection. Sometimes there is a feeling of unease in some of those reflections, which I think is one of the kind of interesting overlaps with her and Sarah's work, because on the surface these are like brightly colored, pretty dynamic, engaging compositions, but there is kind of something else lurking within them when you take a closer look.
Now we'll talk about this pairing of two artists who are both working conceptually with the idea of time and also touch. First, we'll talk about this large work behind us by Hannah Parrott, an artist out of Cincinnati. And Hannah makes installations that work with painting and sculpture and found objects. We're very excited to see this piece because it is site-specific, which means that it was made specifically for this corner of the gallery and has not been seen before. It's a new piece. And as curators, there is an element of trust that we like to give an artist, to say to them, go ahead and make the work that you'd like to make for this space. We've seen what you did previously and we trust you. And so Hannah was able to do that, and it's very exciting for us to come into the space and see this new work that was created specifically for this spot. Hannah's paintings are moving with the sculptures side by side, so they exist together. But all of them are sort of referencing an idea of the human body in some way and touch as it moves through time. So some of these objects were created and sculpted by Hannah, and other pieces were found. If you move in close and look to some of the parts of the sculpture, you will see spindles from chairs that have been created either by other makers or by factories, found, weathered over time, and now at this new home in this artwork here. Hannah's color palette is really nice to see here in conjunction with this work that we've paired it with, but also there's a kind of organic movement and geometric forms that are kind of rhyming and echoing, which Natalie will talk about next.
We've paired Hannah's work with Melissa Voglia-Woods, and she's an artist based here in Columbus. Melissa works in scaiola, which is a 17th century artisanal process of layering thin layers of plaster to mimic the look of marble. In her practice, Melissa has applied this artisanal process to her fine art objects, in this case, which take the form of blocks and block forms that are on the floor and serve as pedestals for these sort of impossible knots and knot forms that she makes. We were drawn to both of these artists and putting these artists together in the context of this exhibition for more conceptual reasons, looking at Hannah's use of found objects, as Jordan pointed out, perhaps like a chair leg that was created by another maker, or appearingly found objects such as a stretcher bar that's hanging in front of her installation. And then Melissa creating objects that are meant to mimic in some way or appear to be perhaps something found or something from the past. So both artists are really thinking about mimicry or artificiality in some way, even though these are both sculptural processes that are very much handmade.
Hannah's piece is a site-specific installation, which means that it has not existed before being in this space here. And Hannah came to the gallery to work directly on the wall. So the painting that you see, the colors that you see in those shapes are painted directly onto the wall surface with a variety of paint materials. And then there's also elements that are responding to the space, to the corner, even to the elements of the ceiling and the slats on the ceiling, down to the baseboard along the floor. So Hannah is working, responding to the elements that are here in the architecture, taking things, pushing things to the edges as far as she can.
Melissa's objects, unlike Hannah's, are completely constructed and made in her studio. And the process requires, as I mentioned earlier, building up thin layers of plaster and quite a process of sanding and polishing in order to create this marble-like finish on it. When you create a piece to come into a gallery to make, you've created a series of perhaps objects and sketches and plans, but until the artist is in the space, there's like knowledge that occurs as that work is being created. That becomes very different in a studio setting where you are working, day after day on an object and kind of have that luxury of time to create the work in front of you.
Thanks for joining us for this Spotlight on the Riffe with Ohio Channel. This exhibition is Shared State, curated by Jordan Buschur and Natalie Lanese. Thank you so much to the Ohio Arts Council, the governor, and the legislature, all who support the Ohio Arts Council, this great space, and of course, Ohio artists.